Welcome back. And now for the news in detail. Afghanistan's military claims it has killed 46 Taliban fighters across the country in the last 24 hours. In a statement, the military said Afghan forces launched 21 operations and 17 airstrikes. The military said 20 other fighters have been injured in operations conducted in 17 provinces across the country. The statement says the death toll in the northern province of Baghlan is highest with 25 deaths. The Taliban have not yet commented on the Afghan army's statement. Pakistan has shut down visa operations at its embassy in Kabul over security concerns until further notice. Islamabad says its diplomats and staff members were being harassed for the last 2 days. They were obstructed on the road, and embassy vehicles were also hit by motorcycles while going towards the embassy. Earlier, Pakistan's Foreign Office summoned the Afghan Chargé d'Affaires to protest against the harassment of its diplomats and staff members. Islamabad urged Kabul to immediately investigate the security violations and share its report with Pakistan. Afghanistan's Independent Election Commission says a vote recount has begun in 34 provinces. The audit was ordered after almost all the candidates accused the commission of meddling with the results. Low election turnout, voting machines theft, accusations of voter fraud were all followed by allegations that the commission had colluded with the government. The commission previously said over 1.8 million votes have been found valid and transferred to its database. It said the recount and inspection process will be completed in 3 days in the presence of observers and the media. India has increased security in the states of Madhya Pradesh and Uttar Pradesh before the Ayodhya case verdict. The Supreme Court's decision is expected to be announced before 17th of November. Speaking on the security arrangements, Uttar Pradesh Police Chief O.P. Singh said forces are ready and the National Security Act can also be implemented if needed. Under the Act, police can arrest individuals posing threats to peace and keep them under arrest as long as 1 year. Over 2,000 Muslims were killed during communal riots when Hindu fanatics destroyed the Babri Mosque in Uttar Pradesh in 1992. Iran says its enriched uranium production has reached 5 kilograms per day. This is more than 10 times the level when Tehran abandoned the 2015 nuclear deal 2 months ago in response to the U.S. withdrawal from the pact last year. Iran's nuclear program chief Ali Akbar Salehi said Tehran has also developed 2 new advanced centrifuges. Salehi said the move would show Iran's capacity and determination. Tehran has repeatedly said it's meaningless to abide by the deal without its benefits. In Iraq's holy city of Karbala, 3 protesters have been shot dead by security forces after dozens of demonstrators stormed into the Iranian consulate. The demonstrators climbed over obstacles and pulled down the Iranian flag, replacing it with the Iraqi flag. Iran's forensic department says security forces in Karbala fired live ammunition to disperse protesters trying to scale the consulate's walls. Police say they fired tear gas and warning shots as the crowds grew outside the Iranian consulate. Protesters threw rocks at the walls of the consulate and set tires on fire at the gates of the building. More than 250 people have lost their lives since anti-government rallies broke out in Iraq on 1st of October. Israel says it will launch a military operation in Gaza unless the situation on the borders is normalized. Tensions escalated after Israeli warplanes bombed Gaza, alleging a rocket was launched into its territory. Israel's Energy Minister Yuval Stanitz said Tel Aviv will start a ground operation to destroy Hamas rule in Gaza. Earlier on Sunday, Israel's cabinet ministers held a meeting on the recent military escalation in the Strip. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the government will do all it takes to ensure security. Meanwhile, Israeli forces have arrested 15 Palestinians from the occupied West Bank. In a statement, Palestinian Prisoners Society said Israeli forces carried out overnight raids across the occupied territory. Nearly 6,000 Palestinians, including women and children, are currently languishing in Israeli jails. Russia says a convoy of the U.S. troops heading to Iraq has been attacked by Turkish-backed fighters. The Russian Defense Ministry says no U.S. servicemen were killed or injured in the attack. It says U.S. forces reported facing shelling near the city of Tal Tamr in northeastern Syria, close to the Iraqi border. The area is controlled by the pro-Turkish Syrian National Army. In October, President Donald Trump ordered U.S. troops to redeploy from northeastern Syria to Iraq. This coincided with the Turkey's Operation Peace Spring, which was launched to create a safe zone. Russia has finally declared it is ready for the Normandy Fourth Summit. The other three parties taking part in the Normandy format blame Moscow for putting off the meeting for over a month. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said President Vladimir Putin is interested in a summit with the leaders of Germany, France and Ukraine. Peskov said summit preparations were complicated not just because of Russia, but by the actions of other states. Meanwhile, Ukrainian Foreign Minister Vadim Prystaiko said the timing of the Normandy summit depends solely on Russia. A political agreement between Moscow and Kiev on the disputed Donbas region as well as Syria situation are among the issues up for discussion. Russia says it has no plans to stop natural gas transiting across Ukraine, but Kiev is unwilling to reach an agreement. The current gas transit agreement between Moscow and Kiev expires after 31st of December. In an interview in Moscow, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said there are alternative routes if Kiev delays the matter any further. Peskov said Russia has every opportunity to make sure the required supplies reach Western customers, but they will not prevent supplies from crossing into Ukraine. He said President Vladimir Putin has stressed it cannot happen unless their Ukrainian counterparts want it. The bulk of the Russian gas sent to Europe passes through Ukraine. South Korea has proposed high-level talks with Japan to resolve a deepening political and trade row. South Korean President Moon Jae-in offered the dialogue to Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe during a meeting in Thailand. The two leaders held an 11-minute one-on-one meeting on the sidelines of the ASEAN summit in Bangkok. Seoul spokesperson Ko Min-jung said Prime Minister Abe agreed to resolve outstanding disputes through dialogue. Cuban and Venezuelan leaders have pledged to counter Washington's unilateralism at a meeting in Havana. Cuban Communist Party leader Raul Castro, President Miguel Diaz-Canel, and Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro chaired the closing session. The meeting took place against a backdrop of social unrest currently sweeping through Latin American nations. During the meeting, they said U.S. sanctions will strengthen their resolve to support social change in the region. Maduro rejected U.S. allegations that he instigated the unrest in Chile. Castro urged unity among nations against the sanctions levied by the U.S. They resolved to defeat U.S. attacks against socialist governments and movements. Bolivian opposition leader Carlos Mesa has called for new elections to resolve the country's ongoing political crisis. The controversial re-election of President Evo Morales in October sparked violent protests, killing 2 and injuring hundreds. Mesa, who ran Morales close in the official vote, said the best solution was to have a new election.
We therefore believe that the best solution to this crisis in the current circumstances is a new election that is administered by a new impartial plurinational electoral body under rigorous observation by the international community.
Moving on to Vietnam, where police have arrested 8 more suspects in connection with the Essex lorry case. The arrest came as a team of Vietnamese officials arrived in Britain to help identify the 39 people found dead in a lorry container last month. Vietnam says it's treating the incident as a smuggling case instead of human trafficking. Most of the victims belong to the north-central provinces of Gay, An and Ha Tin. Last week, British police charged 2 men with manslaughter who were arrested from central Vietnam. British police is contacting victims' families to help with the visual identification of the bodies. Indian capital New Delhi's air quality has reached apocalyptic levels as the city chokes under a thick blanket of smoke. Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal said the air in northern India has reached unbearable levels. Government data shows New Delhi's air quality index at 500 today, taking it into the severe category. The official data recorded the city's AQI level at 704 yesterday evening, which is 14 times higher than the safe level. The government has announced schools in and around New Delhi will remain closed until tomorrow because of the pollution. Every winter, Delhi is wrapped in a noxious blend of smoke from car fumes and industrial emissions, making it one of the world's most polluted cities. Severe flooding across a large swath of Somalia has paralyzed everyday activities and left over 250,000 people searching for shelter. Health officials say more than a dozen people have died from the recent floods, with others still missing. This report has the details.
Roads have been turned into rivers and farmland inundated. Weeks of flooding has destroyed basic infrastructure in central Somalia. Schools in hard-hit areas have also been forced to shut their doors.
A total of 86 schools have been affected by the floods. More than 27 students are out of school as a result. 700 teachers are also out of work as locals flee to higher ground due to floods.
It's the second flood to affect Beledweyne in less than a year. President Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo toured the affected areas and promised government support to end repeated flooding.
We will work with neighboring countries and all relevant authorities to mitigate the crisis and ensure our people don't have to suffer again.
The threat of waterborne disease remains the biggest fear for aid agencies and local authorities.
We are bringing more commodities as the regular food basket to be able to support up to 2 months the area of Bulletin and surrounded locations which are flooded and being impacted by the latest climate change.
Experts also say a lasting solution is needed to ensure families are no longer forced to flee their homes.
More stories to follow right after a short break. Stay tuned with Indus. Welcome back. Storm Emily has pummeled southern France with violent winds and heavy rain. The gusts blew over trees which blocked roads and railways. Authorities say the storm has left 140,000 people without electricity. They say no deaths have been reported so far. However, a woman is reported missing near Nice after a landslide. The US has hinted that it could be lifting some sanctions against Chinese tech giant Huawei. US Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross says licenses allowing US companies to sell to Huawei will be available soon. Speaking at a business forum in the ASEAN summit, Ross said his office has received 260 requests for licenses. He said the United States is engaged in a long overdue overhaul of its trade relationship with China. He added that the two sides are well advanced with phase 1 of the preliminary trade agreement. He said President Trump's administration is fully committed to Asia.
Continue to champion the values that have served the Indo-Pacific so well. Respect for the sovereignty of all nations, the peaceful resolution of disputes, an open commercial environment with transparent agreements that encourage investment and connectivity.
Over 35 Pakistani companies will attend the week-long China International Import Expo in Shanghai tomorrow. Advisor on commerce, textile industry, production and investment, Abdul Razak Dawood will lead the Pakistani delegation. Dawood will also attend the WTO ministerial meeting and hold a bilateral meeting with the Chinese Minister of Commerce in Beijing. At the expo, Pakistan will showcase textile, leather garments, sports goods, surgical equipment and other products. Stock markets across Europe are trading higher over optimism of a possible trade deal between the US and China. Investors were upbeat as the US agrees to issue licenses to Chinese telecommunications giant Huawei. London's FTSE 100 added a fraction as tariff-exposed European auto sectors gained over 2%. The CAC 40 in Paris and Frankfurt's DAX index also gained over 0.5%. In Asia, the Shanghai Composite closed over 0.5% up amid US-China trade talks optimism. Hang Seng also gained ground on the heels of US job data, suggesting the world's top economy is stabilizing. Now the weather situation from around the globe. And that's all for now. For the latest updates, you may follow us on social media at Indus.news.